Charlotte Bennett had dedicated over a decade to Evergreen Lumber, a modest timber company tucked away in the dense forests of Oregon's Willamette Valley. For 11 years, she was the steady hand guiding the company's operations, enduring early mornings filled with fog and late nights reviewing production data and strategy. Charlotte wasn't just an operations manager, she was the driving force behind a complete turnaround. When she first joined straight out of her MBA program, Evergreen was drowning in outdated procedures, costly errors, and mounting client complaints. But Charlotte plunged into the challenge with unwavering determination. She pinpointed inefficiencies ignored by others, restructured production workflows, and nurtured strong partnerships with clients across Oregon and Northern California. Her work was more than just about numbers, it was about leaving a legacy. Under her leadership, Evergreen's efficiency reached new heights, and client loyalty soared. Then everything changed when Maxwell Pierce arrived, a slick corporate strategist with a shiny resume but no real understanding of timber operations. Charlotte sensed trouble looming, but nothing could prepare her for the storm that would threaten everything she had worked so hard to build. Charlotte Bennett had always been proud of Evergreen Lumber's rise from a struggling local mill to a respected regional player. Her years of dedication shaped a company that valued quality, sustainability, and client trust, but the calm she had worked so hard to create was about to be shattered. When Maxwell Pierce was hired as the new CEO, the board hoped his corporate pedigree would bring innovation and growth. On paper, Maxwell was impressive, a Harvard MBA with a history of leading disruptive initiatives in big corporations. But his lack of experience in the timber industry was glaring. His flashy suits and high-powered speeches were a stark contrast to the rugged work boots and practical mindset that had defined Evergreen's culture for years. At first, Charlotte gave Maxwell the benefit of the doubt. He asked questions, showed curiosity about operations, and even complimented her work during their initial meetings. But it didn't take long for the cracks to show. Maxwell's ideas were driven by buzzwords, synergy, brand alignment, and disruption, rather than practical solutions. Instead of fixing the critical maintenance issues Charlotte had highlighted, he invested heavily in revamping the executive offices with expensive furniture and gourmet coffee bars. Production deadlines took a backseat to endless team building, retreats, and vague strategy sessions. Charlotte's attempts to translate Maxwell's vague directives into workable plans became her daily battle. She shielded her team from the chaos, trying to keep operations running smoothly amidst the growing uncertainty. Despite her efforts, the atmosphere grew tense. Colleagues whispered about the new direction, and morale dipped. Maxwell's biggest move came when he announced the hiring of Greg Wilson as Charlotte's replacement, a man with no manufacturing experience and whose previous job was managing a family car wash. The announcement hit Charlotte like a freight train. Greg's charm and polished appearance masked a complete lack of understanding about timber operations. During their brief interaction, he mispronounced major clients' names and couldn't interpret production charts. It became clear Greg was a puppet, installed to serve Maxwell's agenda. Behind closed doors, Charlotte overheard conversations revealing a sinister plan. Maxwell and Greg laughed about outsourcing core operations to a consulting firm with no timber expertise. The goal wasn't cost-saving as claimed but control, dismantling everything Charlotte had built and replacing it with unqualified management. As Charlotte processed the betrayal, she felt a surge of rage mixed with responsibility. Her team counted on her. The clients relied on the systems she implemented. This was no longer just a personal attack, it was a threat to the entire company's future, its sustainability commitments, and its reputation. The next day, Charlotte's email access was disabled, a clear attempt to silence her before the final blow. But her loyal assistant, Thomas, stepped in, handing her a flash drive loaded with vital documents, contracts, and memos, evidence that would become Charlotte's weapon in the battle ahead. Her resolve hardened. She would not go quietly. The fight to protect Evergreen Lumber had just begun. Charlotte Bennett's world had already been shaken by the sudden announcement of her replacement. But nothing prepared her for the depths of betrayal she was about to uncover. After years of building Evergreen Lumber's operations from the ground up, she was now being edged out by people who didn't just misunderstand the business, they were actively undermining it. It began subtly, with small signs she first chose to ignore. Equipment requests went unanswered, critical maintenance was deferred. Then, the arrival of Greg Wilson made the threat impossible to dismiss. Greg, with his easy smile and confident swagger, acted like he was the new king of the castle. But his ignorance of timber logistics was glaring. One afternoon, as Charlotte showed Greg the intricacies of their predictive scheduling system, a tool she had personally designed to optimize production flow, he nodded along without really understanding a word. His notebook remained mostly blank. No questions asked, no attempts to learn. The charade was clear. He was there as a figurehead. Behind the scenes, Charlotte's instincts were confirmed. She overheard a conversation through the glass walls of the executive lounge. Maxwell and Greg were laughing, making jokes about how Charlotte was still explaining things like it mattered. While they secretly moved to outsource half the company's core operations, the consulting firm Maxwell planned to hire had no experience in timber or manufacturing logistics. It was a company built on buzzwords and vague promises of transformation. Charlotte knew the consequences could be catastrophic: operational chaos, lost certifications, angry clients, and damaged reputation. More alarming were the details she uncovered about contract arrangements. 3 major clients, one a family construction business tied to Maxwell's brother-in-law, another run by a former business partner, and a third linked to a friend who had officiated Maxwell's wedding. All were receiving preferential treatment, below market pricing, extended payment terms, and guaranteed supply during timber shortages were red flags that screamed conflict of interest and potential legal issues. Charlotte worked feverishly to document every piece of evidence. She reviewed board minutes, contracts, emails, and operational reports. None of these major decisions had ever been presented to the board for approval. Despite Maxwell's promises of transparency, her position was rapidly eroding. Email access was cut off, phone calls ignored, and her influence within the company was shrinking by the hour. But Charlotte's assistant, Thomas, remained her ally, having worked closely with her for 7 years. Thomas knew the importance of preserving institutional knowledge and secretly provided her with backups of crucial files. With the weight of betrayal pressing down, Charlotte made a bold move. She reached out to Elaine Robinson, a longtime board member and trusted ally, laying out her concerns and providing the evidence she had collected. Elaine's response was immediate and supportive, but she warned Charlotte of the political minefield ahead. Maxwell would do everything to block her voice and discredit her. The tension reached a breaking point during an impromptu meeting called by Maxwell. He coldly informed Charlotte that her transition period was being cut short. She was to leave immediately. Yet, Charlotte played her cards carefully, agreeing to review the new severance agreement while secretly preparing to expose the truth. On the day of the board's executive committee meeting, Charlotte walked into the room with a quiet confidence. She was armed with documents that revealed every deceit, every bypassed procedure, every threat to Evergreen's integrity. As she presented, she felt the room's atmosphere shift. Maxwell's smug facade faltered under the weight of undeniable facts. The board members exchanged grave looks as they absorbed the evidence of contract favoritism, regulatory risks, and operational sabotage. By the meeting's end, the board made a decisive call. Maxwell was terminated immediately, Greg's appointment was rescinded, and the outsourcing plan was halted. The company would undertake a full audit of executive decisions made during Maxwell's tenure. Walking out of the boardroom, Charlotte felt a rush of vindication and relief. She had fought not just for her job, but for the company's soul, and won. Though offered a chance to return with full authority, Charlotte chose a new path, accepting a leadership role at a sustainable building materials firm that shared her values. There, she began building again, this time with the wisdom gained from betrayal and the strength of a legacy defended. The morning after the board's executive committee meeting was unlike any other Charlotte Bennett had ever experienced. The air around Evergreen Lumber was thick with tension, relief, and uncertainty all at once. Maxwell Pierce, the once confident CEO who had tried to dismantle everything she worked for, was gone. Greg Wilson's tenure as her replacement was over before it even began. The outsourcing plan, Maxwell's grand modernization scheme, had been shelved indefinitely. But Charlotte knew the fight was far from over. That night, sitting alone in her small apartment overlooking the city lights of Portland, she reflected on everything that had transpired. For months, she had been blindsided by betrayal, isolation, and the creeping fear that the company she loved would be destroyed from within. Yet, through the haze of anger and disappointment, a new clarity had emerged. Charlotte realized that her greatest battle was not with Maxwell or Greg alone, it was against complacency and silence. She understood now how easy it was for even well-run companies to become vulnerable to manipulation when leaders lose sight of accountability and transparency. This shift in perspective transformed Charlotte's approach. No longer content to react defensively, she began to envision how Evergreen Lumber could rebuild stronger, with new safeguards and a renewed commitment to its core values. Back at the office, Charlotte found her relationships with former colleagues deepened by the crisis. Employees who had once been skeptical of her leadership now reached out with gratitude and offers of support. Her team members, who had weathered the chaos, looked to her for guidance and hope. One of the most powerful moments came when Thomas, her trusted assistant, shared stories of how her steady leadership had kept morale alive. "You didn't just hold this company together," he said, "you inspired us to believe in something bigger." Charlotte took that inspiration to heart. She began working closely with the board, especially Elaine Robinson and James Wernern, the board chair, to design a comprehensive strategy for operational oversight. The new plan emphasized clear reporting channels, regular audits, and strict conflict of interest policies. They introduced training programs to empower employees at every level to speak up without fear. At the same time, Charlotte accepted an offer to consult for a sustainable building materials firm expanding into engineered timber. This opportunity felt like a fresh start, a chance to apply her experience and values in a company aligned with her vision for responsible growth. But she remained connected to Evergreen Lumber, working quietly behind the scenes to ensure the company stayed on course. She understood that legacy wasn't just about holding a position, it was about the impact one leaves behind. Through this journey, Charlotte grew not just as a leader but as a person. The experience taught her the importance of resilience, strategic patience, and the power of truth. She learned to channel frustration into focused action and to seek allies even in unexpected places. In many ways, the betrayal she endured became a catalyst for growth, not only for her but for the entire organization. Evergreen Lumber emerged from the turmoil with renewed purpose, a stronger governance framework, and a culture more committed to its foundational values than ever before. Charlotte's story spread quietly through the industry, not as a tale of victimhood but as an example of courage and integrity. She became a sought-after speaker on corporate governance, sharing lessons about navigating disruption with grace and strength. Her new role in sustainable materials allowed her to build something fresh, rooted in transparency, accountability, and long-term vision. Several former colleagues joined her, creating a team bonded by shared experience and commitment. Looking back, Charlotte understood that sometimes the greatest transformations come not from avoiding conflict but from facing it head-on with clarity and conviction. When others tried to erase her legacy, she chose to defend it, not with bitterness, but with evidence, strategy, and an unwavering belief in what she stood for. Her journey was far from over, but Charlotte Bennett was ready, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to lead through any storm. After the storm had passed at Evergreen Lumber, Charlotte Bennett found herself standing at a crossroads she hadn't anticipated. The offer to return to her former company with full operational control was tempting. It was a chance to reclaim what she'd lost, to restore order on her terms. But something inside her whispered that this chapter was closing, and a new one was waiting to be written. When James Wernern and Elaine Robinson approached her with the offer, Charlotte listened carefully. They promised authority, respect, and resources, everything she needed to rebuild. But Charlotte saw beyond the promises. She saw the scars left behind, the fractures in trust, and the heavy weight of navigating a company still healing from betrayal. Instead, she chose to embrace an opportunity that aligned deeply with her values and vision. A growing sustainable building materials firm, Greencraft Innovations, was expanding into engineered timber. They sought a director of operations who could not only lead efficiently but embody integrity, transparency, and resilience. The CEO had followed the Evergreen saga closely and was impressed by Charlotte's leadership and unshakable ethics. Joining Greencraft was more than a job, it was a fresh canvas. Charlotte approached it with the same tenacity that had transformed Evergreen Lumber but with a renewed sense of purpose. She knew this company needed strong operational systems, but also a culture built on trust and accountability from the ground up. Her first months at Greencraft were a whirlwind of activity. She audited existing processes, identified gaps, and prioritized building a cohesive team. Several trusted former colleagues from Evergreen joined her. Engineers, analysts, and project managers who shared her commitment and had first-hand experience with the trials they'd overcome. Together, they rebuilt workflows that emphasized sustainability, efficiency, and data-driven decision-making. Charlotte implemented real-time material tracking systems and integrated procurement processes that minimized waste while ensuring timely delivery. She championed transparency, holding regular open forums for staff to voice concerns and ideas. But the biggest challenge was instilling a mindset shift. Greencraft had potential but lacked the deep-rooted culture Charlotte believed essential for long-term success. She worked closely with human resources to design training that reinforced ethical practices and accountability. Charlotte's leadership style was direct but empathetic. She understood the importance of listening, especially to those who had been marginalized or unheard. She invested time mentoring younger employees, sharing lessons from her past experiences, and encouraging a collaborative environment. Her efforts quickly paid off. Greencraft's client satisfaction soared, new contracts were secured, and operational costs dropped without sacrificing quality or sustainability commitments. Charlotte's team became a model of efficiency and integrity in the industry. Despite the successes, Charlotte remained humble, always aware that leadership was a continuous journey. She kept an open dialogue with the board of Evergreen Lumber, offering strategic advice and support as they navigated reforms. Her loyalty to the industry and its future remained steadfast. Meanwhile, the fallout from Maxwell Pierce's tenure at Evergreen continued to ripple through the timber sector. Investigations uncovered more instances of unethical contracts and governance breaches. The industry rallied around stronger regulations and calls for transparency, many citing Charlotte's courageous stand as a turning point. Charlotte's reputation grew beyond operational expertise. She became a symbol of ethical leadership in a challenging landscape. Invitations to speak at conferences and industry forums followed, where she shared insights on navigating corporate politics, safeguarding sustainability, and leading through adversity. Through it all, Charlotte never lost sight of why she entered this field: to build something meaningful that would endure. The opportunity at Greencraft wasn't just a new job. It was the chance to live her values fully, to create a legacy defined by more than just profits or titles. Her journey was a testament to resilience and vision. When one door closes, another opens, sometimes leading to paths richer and more fulfilling than imagined. Charlotte embraced her new chapter with hope and determination, ready to shape the future on her terms. Charlotte Bennett's journey through turmoil and transformation was far more than a career detour. It became the crucible in which her leadership was forged. The trials she endured at Evergreen Lumber and the new opportunities at Greencraft Innovations shaped her into a leader not just defined by expertise, but by resilience, empathy, and vision. At Greencraft, Charlotte quickly realized that success required more than just processes and systems. It demanded cultivating a culture where people felt empowered and accountable, a place where trust was earned daily and integrity was non-negotiable. Her first challenge was building that culture from the ground up. She gathered her team for candid conversations about their aspirations and fears. Many had been wary after years of corporate upheaval. Others were new and eager but unsure how to navigate complex industry dynamics. Charlotte shared her story openly, of the battles she'd faced, the lessons learned, and the values she now held dear. Vulnerability became a powerful leadership tool, breaking down walls and fostering connection. She encouraged her team to speak freely, to challenge assumptions, and to innovate boldly. One project that highlighted her growth was the launch of a new engineered timber product line designed to meet stringent environmental standards. The team faced tight deadlines, complex regulations, and high client expectations. Charlotte led with calm decisiveness, ensuring clear communication, aligned goals, and mutual support. When unexpected supply chain disruptions threatened delay, she didn't panic. Instead, she worked closely with procurement and production to develop contingency plans, negotiated transparently with clients, and kept morale high. The product launched successfully, earning praise for quality and sustainability. Charlotte also invested deeply in mentoring emerging leaders within the company. She recognized that true leadership was not about titles but about influence and service. She coached team members through challenges, helped them build skills, and celebrated their successes. Her approach was transformative. Staff turnover dropped, productivity increased, and the workplace atmosphere became more collaborative and engaged. Charlotte's team no longer just followed orders, they took ownership. At the same time, Charlotte strengthened her own skills. She enrolled in executive leadership workshops focused on ethical governance, stakeholder engagement, and crisis management. She sought out mentors and peers to broaden her perspective. Embracing continuous learning is essential to growth. Charlotte's expanding network brought new opportunities. She joined industry boards advocating for sustainable forestry and ethical business practices. Her voice carried weight not only because of her expertise but because of the authenticity and integrity she embodied. Despite these achievements, Charlotte remained grounded. She never forgot the harsh lessons of her past, the moments of doubt, and the resilience required to persevere. Those memories fueled her commitment to lead with transparency and courage. Internally, Charlotte fostered a culture where mistakes were seen as learning moments, and feedback was a gift. This openness sparked innovation and agility, positioning Greencraft to adapt in a rapidly changing market. Charlotte also championed initiatives supporting employee well-being and diversity. She believed that a strong, diverse team was critical to long-term success and aligned with the company's values. Her growth was evident not only in results but in how she carried herself. She approached challenges with measured confidence, balancing assertiveness with empathy. Her decision-making reflected strategic thinking combined with a deep respect for people and the planet. The transformation extended beyond Greencraft. Charlotte became a sought-after consultant, advisor, and speaker. Her insights into overcoming corporate adversity and building ethical organizations resonated across industries. Yet, for all the accolades and recognition, Charlotte's true measure of success remained simple: the trust of her team, the loyalty of clients, and the knowledge that she was helping build a future worth believing in. Her journey was a testament to what happens when experience meets character, when setbacks become stepping stones and leadership is defined not by power, but by purpose. Charlotte Bennett was no longer just a manager or survivor. She had become the leader she was always meant to be. Charlotte Bennett's story was far from a simple tale of corporate success or failure. It was a powerful testament to the strength of integrity, resilience, and unwavering commitment to one's principles. After the chaos that had threatened to destroy everything she'd built at Evergreen Lumber, Charlotte emerged not only victorious but transformed, ready to lead not just a company but an entire movement toward ethical leadership and sustainable industry practices. The days following the board's decisive action to remove Maxwell Pierce and cancel the disastrous outsourcing plan were filled with a mixture of relief, reflection, and renewal. Charlotte was invited back to Evergreen, not to reclaim her old position, but as a respected consultant entrusted to help rebuild trust and ensure the company's values were never again compromised. Though she ultimately chose to move on to new challenges at Greencraft Innovations, the door at Evergreen remained open, symbolizing the enduring impact of her leadership. It was a reminder that the legacy one builds is never erased by those who seek to undermine it. It lives on in the people, the culture, and the principles left behind. Charlotte's experience became a beacon for others in the timber industry and beyond. Her story spread quietly but powerfully through boardrooms and industry forums, inspiring leaders to prioritize transparency and accountability over quick profits and flashy strategies. Invitations to speak at conferences and participate in advisory panels poured in. Charlotte embraced these opportunities, not as a platform for personal glory, but as a chance to share hard-earned wisdom and encourage a new generation of leaders to act with courage and conviction. Her message was clear. True leadership isn't about control or status, it's about serving a purpose greater than oneself. It's about standing firm when faced with adversity, making tough choices guided by ethics, and building organizations that can weather any storm because they are rooted in trust and respect. At Greencraft Innovations, Charlotte continued to lead with this philosophy, driving innovation without compromising values. The company thrived under her guidance, winning awards for sustainability and operational excellence. She mentored emerging leaders, fostering a culture where people felt valued, empowered, and inspired to do their best work. Charlotte also remained engaged with Evergreen Lumber, advising on governance reforms and helping cultivate a new culture of openness. Her influence helped ensure that the company's mistakes would not be repeated, and that its future would be brighter and more secure. One of the most poignant moments came when Charlotte was honored by an industry association for her contributions to ethical leadership and sustainability. Standing on stage, she reflected on the long journey, the setbacks, the betrayals, and the triumphs. She spoke not just about her own story, but about the collective responsibility leaders carry to build organizations that honor people, planet, and purpose. Sometimes the hardest battles we fight aren't against external forces, Charlotte said, her voice steady and filled with emotion. They're within ourselves and the systems we inhabit. But when we choose integrity over convenience, courage over complacency, we become unstoppable. Her words resonated deeply with the audience, sparking conversations and commitments to change across industries. Behind the scenes, Charlotte remained humble and focused. She knew that true success wasn't measured by awards or titles, but by the lasting positive impact on people's lives and the environment. She continued to challenge herself and her teams to innovate responsibly, lead thoughtfully, and act with compassion. Her story also became a powerful reminder to companies everywhere that short-term gains achieved through deception and manipulation ultimately lead to ruin, while leadership grounded in honesty and accountability creates enduring value. Charlotte Bennett's journey wasn't just about overcoming betrayal. It was about reclaiming purpose, redefining success, and inspiring a new standard of leadership that others could follow. And as she looked to the future, Charlotte did so with quiet confidence, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, she had the strength, wisdom, and integrity to meet them head-on. Because true leadership, she understood now more than ever, was about more than just business. It was about being the change the world needed. Charlotte Bennett's story teaches us a timeless lesson about integrity, resilience, and the power of truth. When faced with betrayal and attempts to erase her legacy, she didn't retaliate with anger or bitterness. Instead, she chose clarity, evidence, and calm determination. Her journey shows that true strength lies not in avoiding conflict but in facing it head-on with honesty and courage. In the corporate world, or any area of life, maintaining ethical standards and standing firm on your principles is the foundation for lasting success. Charlotte's ability to adapt, learn, and lead with empathy transformed what could have been a career-ending crisis into an opportunity for growth and renewal. This lesson reminds us all, no matter how tough the challenge, staying true to your values and focusing on constructive action will help you overcome adversity and inspire others along the way. In practical terms, Charlotte's experience underscores the importance of documenting decisions and maintaining transparency in any organization. If you're a leader, always build systems that prioritize accountability and open communication. Encourage your team to speak up about concerns and create channels to protect whistleblowers. Stay vigilant for signs of unethical behavior. And don't shy away from confronting difficult truths. When you face setbacks, channel frustration into strategic action, collect facts, build alliances, and approach challenges with a clear plan. Charlotte's story also highlights the value of mentorship and continuous learning. Invest in your personal growth and support those around you to grow alongside you. Whether in business or personal life, these practices not only safeguard your integrity but also build a resilient community that can withstand storms and thrive long-term. Thank you for choosing to listen to this story among thousands of stories out there. Like and subscribe to continue listening to the latest stories.